Welcome to the Jamodi podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products. How does culture drive performance? It's a buzzword, but it's there.
Yeah, it's like I feel so like kind of like cheesy talking about culture, but you're right. Like and I think you can talk about culture without even saying the word culture sometimes.
Standards, the way you show up. Yeah.
Exactly. Standards and behaviors.
Yep.
It's like culture is really just how you act, how your individuals act. And I think the way culture drives, success is that it's a shared goal, shared purpose. We always try to play to a standard higher than winning, and that's when it becomes more about basketball. So it's just we're pursuing excellence. That's what my high school coach used to always say is we're pursuing excellence, we're pursuing perfection, even though we know we can't be perfect, but there's always something more to accomplish. So if we win, it's like we're going to celebrate it, but we know that there's more out there because we have this shared purpose. So it's all individuals working towards that shared purpose where we've all heard the sum is greater than its parts. In the culture code, Daniel Coyle, the author, just said 2 + 2 = 10 when you're in a good culture. And you can get a lot of things wrong, but when you have a great culture, you can get a lot of things right, So it's just, I think the sum are greater than its parts. I think what you have when you have a great culture is you have weaker individuals that can succeed in a stronger group rather than a strong individual might not be able to succeed around a weaker group. So I just think that's what makes it more about basketball. So it's easy to keep the main thing. But then there's just like, you just feel like, I think when you're in special cultures, you just feel that it's special and you feel that it's different. So that's kind of what we tried to create at Catholic, and what Coach Angel, our head coach at App State, does a phenomenal job of. Super passionate about building culture. A lot of what we do is player led. So we want it to be kind of the coach's vision or concept, but the players define that. It's their definition and they bring it to life. So definitely a shared culture is one that I think is successful.
Do you feel like the culture of a program needs to fit with the style of play? And the reason I ask this, like the way that what I've learned from you and kind of what I believe is more of a free flowing style where players are making plays, making reads off of each other, which that takes a lot of trust from us to players, but from player to player. I take just a random offense, one that I ran in college, unfortunately, like flex, very structured. With that in mind, how important is culture to the way that you play?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's really important because what I've learned as a coach going through my career is that these things don't exist independently. It's like culture is not how we behave off the floor, and then this style of play is what's on the court. It really is. I mean, the culture is the huge umbrella, and everything falls under that. So I think it goes more into the style rather than like the exact offense that you run. So for us, like we like to get up and down. We like to play fast and free, like you said. So I think it goes to like, what are your core values? For us, like at Catholic, when I was a head coach, our core values were together and attack. So we, because together could be unity or teamwork or brotherhood, just fun ways to define it, right? And then attack is just, we're going to get after it no matter what we do. If we're playing basketball, if we're in the weight room, if we're in the classroom, we are going to have a sole purpose of just attacking the day. And I think that's where you we really turned the corner as a program, because it wasn't you see all the time like I have to, or I get to
Yeah.
mentality, but also like in the weight room. One thing I really wanted to change is I noticed our guys would like finish a set and be like, hunched over, or like about to get under the bar, and they're like kind of intimidated by it. I'm like, hey, like we're going to attack that thing, like go kick its butt. And then when we're done, let's jog to our superset, because we're playing fast, and we got to be able to transition everywhere, from class to the court, from film to practice, from the locker room to the game. So just building those things in, and it's more of a mindset. It's more of not what we do. It becomes more ingrained in you and just who we are.
Nice. I think that's a huge shift right there to culture, standards, how we show up, whatever, however you want to say it. How many coaches out there, and my takeaway, how many coaches out there have pillars that are good? Like there's nothing wrong with those signs on a wall in your locker room, but the way that you go about things in practice, the way that you go about things with your play, they there's a struggle, there's friction between them. So I think that big shift there is the way that you want everything to flow within your program. Make sure your culture or your identity is actually lining up with that, instead of just something your high school coach or something that you read in a book that sounds really good, an acronym that sounds really good, but there's no type of buy-in at all or flow.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times those core values or those pillars you talk, they're all great stuff, but if you're not living them, they're just signs on a wall. And I think as coaches, we've got to remember your culture is really built a lot of times, not in meetings, not on the court. It's in all the little random moments.
Yeah.
How we behave in the locker room. How do we interact? I was talking to a coach that's in the Courtside program, and we were talking about pro hops. He just wanted his team to be better at pro hops. So we went a long kind of discussion of just like how we teach it, how we rep it. And then he said, so live play, how do you get them to pro hop after all that? And I said, well, make any pro hop. If we pro hop, shoot a layup, pro hop, kick out for a three, just make that 4 points, or 5 points or whatever. Add more value to it. And the reason why I say that is I told him, but look, like if you have guys stretching themselves and trying something new and they fail, quote unquote fail, like celebrate it, man.
Yeah.
Like that's your culture,
Yeah.
like if you want your team to pro hop and a kid pro hops and turns it over and he gets an earful, like well, that's your culture, But if you're celebrating the fact that he tried to do something new, that's also your culture too. So
Yeah.
it's just in all those little moments, man. Like a lot of the ideas that I'm sharing on cultures, like I got from Doug Lamoff's book, who a lot of people have read. If you haven't, you need to. But he mentioned a soccer coach. Somebody blew a wide open breakaway shot, and like the coach didn't even respond. It's just like, what's the point? Like he wanted to make the shot, he just didn't. Like
Yeah.
does he need to be yelled at because of it? Like
Let's make him feel worse about screwing
right?
up.
Yeah. Maybe he'll make the next one if we make him feel bad about himself.
That's tough because I mean now you and I don't know how I'm 40, so I probably got 10 years on you. You look young.
I'm 37, man.
Okay, only not 3 that many years. Okay, so but you and I we're very similar in age, and I'm not. I mean, there's definitely older coaches that do think this way and believe in that not perfection but excellence idea. Like that is big, because the movies and the coaches that we probably idolize. I mean, I just always go back to remember the Titans when he's standing there, perfection, gentlemen, is the goal. And like it sounds so good. It's Denzel Washington. Or Hoosiers. There's so much in Hoosiers. I love the movie, but in my heart I'm like, no, that's not it. But I think that's hard for some coaches to, in the moment, let go of resulting.
Yep.
And celebrate the process.
Yeah. Quick follow up on that. So like, I love you saying resulting. I love you using that language, because this is good from James Clear. Like, if the result is not where you want it, but you're on the right path, the direction of where you're heading is more important than the actual result in the moment. So if you're on the right direction, just celebrate it or ignore it, whatever. But to your other point of kind of older coaches, and we all have our strengths, weaknesses, but I just feel like a lot of where we get our strengths is because the way we were coached.
Yeah.
But we also get a lot of weaknesses that way too. And I feel like that's what can stunt growth. Is this is the way I was brought up, and I turned out okay, so this is the way the next generation is going to get it. Doesn't have to be that way. I think a lot of the things that I've stumbled upon and stolen from people and borrowed and tweaked was because I was always looking for a better way to do things.
I think that, did you come up, like, have you always been that way? Because I don't think a lot of coaches, like, we enjoy doing the things that we know and that we're comfortable in and we've done for a long time.
Yeah. I think that shift happened for me overnight. Well, I wouldn't say that. So I was an assistant at 19 while I was going to college. I went back to alma mater and was an assistant for 2 years. And I learned a ton just because you're looking at it from a completely different lens. And it was actually a different coach that I worked for, and didn't really have a prior relationship with him. So learned a ton from him. But then I got a head job just offered to me, like, on a whim. Didn't apply, didn't want it, wasn't even looking. I was focused on finishing school, and then I think as a 21-year-old head coach, I realized, like, I don't really know what I'm doing. So I better start looking for better ways to do things, or looking for ways to organize. So I just became obsessed with, like, gathering clinic notes and listening to clinics, listening to coaches. Podcasts weren't really a thing back then, but I probably would have been obsessed with podcasts. And I think that just, like, desire for, like, for me, what fuels me is when I figure out that I don't know what I don't know. So just connecting with people and realizing that there's just, like, these ways out there to coach and teach that I didn't even know existed. Like, that's extremely motivating for me.
I love that. There's a guy that I've enjoyed following on Twitter, and I read his book, Fake Fundamentals. Brian McCormick, and on Twitter, he'll it's almost as if whatever Coach A says, he's got another idea. He's going to go the opposite way. And then Coach B says something almost the same as him, but he's got another opposite. He's got another way, but his mind is similar. And he challenged me on so many things that we do just because we've always done them. But is that the best way for players, for coaching? Any other resources or things that you found that kind of opened your mind up to, man, there might be more efficient ways to do this?
Yeah, Brian is definitely one. I read 21st Century Basketball
Nice.
and follow him on Twitter. Actually, I had a chance to meet him around a year ago. And he's one in the same way, just not afraid to challenge beliefs, which I think that just leads to innovation, and just always finding a better way. One thing I do not like is like limiting beliefs, or that's too hard, or that won't work here, or we can't do that, at this level, or we've always done it this way. And he's definitely one that kind of stretches you there. One of my good, somebody that I hired as a mentor that's become a good friend of mine is JP Nurbin. He was kind of the guy that he's a phenomenal basketball coach, but has stopped coaching. Just kind of he helps coaches with their culture, and that's what he really opened my eyes to. So a lot of coaches have opened my eyes to new things, X's and O's wise. He's opened my eyes to just running a program and being transformational. How to do that. I think all coaches want to be transformational. He really showed me how to do that. Still a work in progress, as we all are, but he's been one that's just been a good follow for me.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.